Sean Meyers now joined by Jason Fazekas, the Mount Pleasant area football head coach, as his team heads into the 3A playoffs. And first off, Jason, I know getting back to the playoffs, always an accomplishment. However, it's not the way you wanted to get in last week with a loss against Westmoreland. Really surprising that it was so lopsided, 40-3. What were the takeaways and what were the biggest areas you stressed after that game to improve upon?
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, getting into the playoffs, number one is we always look forward to that. It's always one of our goals, so we feel good about making that because it's really not easy to do. That game that we had on Friday, I think there's not a lot to say. I think that team did a really good job. They executed. We didn't, so some of our takeaways are that, we're just going to get into our opponent this week and get better and use that as a learning experience.
Well, prior to that, you had a pretty impressive campaign. You finished the regular season at 6-4, despite the losing conference record. When you think back to when your team did have success and get some of those victories, what stood out as the team's strengths?
Well, with some of the things, I think that we were able to, find spots on defense where we were good, like with our alignment and some of the games that we were running, things like that. Thought we were tackling pretty well. On the offensive side, I felt we had a stretch here where we were, executing in the scheme pretty well, and our kids were really doing what they, we were doing okay. So we got to pull things together here and have a strong week.
I know that you have a lot of different guys who've contributed to you this year offensively. It seems like each and every week someone is, this standout, whether it be Jackson Hutter or Iker or Gillenardo or Chatfield or Nicotera. Who are some guys maybe who've been under the radar this season that have been instrumental in your team's success, though?
Well, I think, all those guys, obviously, you mentioned they've all had periods where they've done really well for us. They've been solid all year. I think probably one of the spots that, we don't talk enough about is like the front guys, which is pretty much the case. I think at times our offensive line was doing a pretty good job for us. A lot of those guys are kind of undersized given who we played. So I think that was one area that stands out, where I think they had a stretch where they were playing pretty well together.
It is a 12-team field in Class 3A. Your team gets the number 11 seed. How did that match up with what your expectations were?
It matched up to what they gave us. So that's what we're going to play. I know, it's always fun and guys like to look ahead and, on Saturday and Sunday, we're, leading up to that and like kind of predict where you're at. So, it always ends up with who they seed us with and where they put us. That's who we're going to play. So that's how we're looking at it. We're getting ready for West Mifflin. And, that's what we have to do.
You were the head coach, I believe, under the old format when they would wait until the week of to announce the brackets. How much easier is this for you and everyone involved to have the extra couple of days?
Well, it's just so much better, and I think everyone says that. Myself, I think coaches, we're pretty much creature of habit, and I know I love my routine, and how I get at it. So it was almost like a disruption, that you had to kind of play in your week different. So to be able to, for me, I always usually start the opponent on a Sunday. So be able to have a full Sunday to get into the team, I think it's certainly the way to go.
Well, let's jump into West Mifflin. It's a team that has made some headlines in particular because they have had a freshman running back doing some special things over the past month or so. Armand Hill has put up 400 plus yards and then nearly 500 yards in back-to-back weeks. Beyond him, what stands out about the Titans?
Well, obviously he stands out. That kid can really run. There are things that I think what really stands out is their front play. I think that they got some size. I think that they execute within their schemes pretty well. So I think, when you combine that with a running back like that kid can move it, it's going to be a tough task for us.
Let's talk about keys to the matchup. What will your team have to do to pull off the upset?
Well, that's it. We got to try to find a way that we can play with the fronts and be able to keep things kind of level for us there and play our fronts and everything in a way that we can have a chance to tackle that good running back. So on the offensive side, the other thing too is we have to try to execute. Call the plays and get our scheme going in the right direction so that we got a chance against those the big fronts that they have.
Lastly, I know that coaches always say it's just another game, but it is a little bit more of an intense environment. Obviously, it's a one and done scenario now that you're in the playoffs. As a coach, do you say anything different to your team to make sure that, they're prepared, but maybe not too hyped for a game like this?
Yeah, I think it's actually an important point to make this week, given what we're coming off of Friday. When I was talking before about like the grind and the routine, the one great thing about football is, we're off of last week. So we can use that now that we're in the playoffs. It's an exciting time that we have to be really good this week. So I think that this is a perfect time for us to kind of use that approach that, we're going to realize that we're in the playoffs, that this game is important. So, I'm going to hope that we're going to have a good practice tomorrow and throughout the week because of that.
Well, Jason, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. As always, we appreciate it, and good luck heading into the playoffs.
Yep, sure thing. I appreciate it.